right, Chapter 11, At Sugar Cane's. His name was Alfred Cane, but his friends called him Sugar. Sugar Cane was the owner of one of the largest candy distributing companies in the East. Chances are, if you had bought a candy bar east of the Ohio River, it came from Alfred Cane's warehouse. It was a very large business, but Sugar Cane was still interested in everyone who worked for him. So when he saw Mac the Big Rig pull up to the warehouse yard, Mr. Cane was very much relieved. So was Mac and Henry. They had made that telephone call to Mrs. Green, you see, and a happy, tearful conversation it was. As soon as Mac dropped off his load of candy, he was going to take Henry home. Henry liked Mr. Cane the minute that he saw him. There was something about the twinkle in his eyes that even his spectacles didn't hide. That made him seem friendly, and with his gray hair and mustache, Mr. Cane looked not a little like Santa Claus. Henry liked Mr. Cane's office, too. It was warm and cozy, and the walls were lined with shelves containing every single product of every warehouse that the warehouse handled. Imagine seeing every kind of candy bar, cookie, and cake all in one spot. It made you hungry just to be there. When they had seated themselves and recounted their adventures, laughing quite a bit in the bargain, Mr. Cane leaned forward in his chair and took a long, close look at Henry. Henry Green, if it won't offend you, I would like to ask you something about those big brown spots you say you have all over. It seemed to Henry that he explained 1,000,000 times already, but he went through the story again from the beginning to the end. Mr. Cane was listening very closely, paying attention to Henry's every word. When Henry finished, Mr. Cane spoke. And so you say that this Dr. Fargo of yours called it chocolate fever, I find that terribly interesting. I find it just plain terrible, said Henry. Big brown spots all over, looking like a freak, people staring at me, and all because of chocolate. All because of chocolate, Mr. Cane echoed. He shook his head once or twice, and a strange look came over his face. There was a long silence. When Alfred Cane spoke again, it was in a quiet voice. Henry Green, let me tell you a story. It's about a boy I once knew, a boy like you. Oh, this boy loved chocolate, too. Like you once did. Chocolate in the morning. Yes, chocolate in the morning. Noon, night, he ate the magic stuff. And if you think that you have invented new ways of chocolateness, so had this lad. Chocolate-covered fried chicken, chocolate French toast with chocolate syrup. There was no end to the ways of chocolate with the boy I'm speaking of. And like you, a strange thing happened to him. In fact, the very same thing. You mean, yes, big brown spots all over. Chocolate fever, Henry exclaimed. The very same. Henry could hardly contain himself. But how was he cured, you mean? Alfred Cane was smiling now. Well, the cure was in 2 parts. The first was the most important, you see. The boy I once knew had to learn the very sad lesson, as all young people must do. Although life is grand and pleasure is everywhere, we can't have everything we want every time we want it. It's a hard lesson, but it comes in time. Yes, said Henry. I think I understand. Maybe I've had too much of a good thing. Indeed. I'll eat less chocolate then, only when I really, really want to. Very good. That is half the battle. And the second half? Henry asked. Very simple. When you think about it, what is the exact opposite of chocolate? What is the one flavor that is the reverse of chocolate we know and love? Vanilla. Mr. Cane walked slowly to the desk, opened the top right-hand drawer, and brought out a small white box. Vanilla pills? Henry Green. The very thing that will cure your chocolate fever within the hour. That is, if you have truly learned the first and hardest part of your cure. Henry could hardly speak. He wanted to laugh. He was so happy. He wanted to cry. He was so sad. But all he could do was nod. "Woohoo!" said Mac with a whoop. "Vanilla pills! Who would have thought it?" "There's one more thing," Mr. Kane said. "That young man I spoke about, the one that reminded me so much of you." "Yes?" "When he grew up, he decided to spend his life bringing joy and happiness to others. And the way he did it, you see, was to bring chocolate to the world. To make sure that when anyone wanted pleasure, there would be chocolate somewhere close by." Henry thought. He knew who that boy was. "His name?" he asked. "His name was Alfred Kane," Alfred Kane said, "but his friends call him Sugar." Mr. Kane stepped forward and shook Henry's hand. "Now you run along with Mac, and if you take those pills on the way, I guarantee that your chocolate fever will be gone by the time you get home. Goodbye now, and remember what I've said." "Goodbye, Mr. Kane," said Henry. "You can call me Sugar, and you can call me Henry." All right, that's the end of chapter 11. We'll be back for chapter 12 and the end of the book. Hopefully you're liking the book so far.